Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. Now that Rollock is in competitive, I figured now is a really good time to look at the pro scene and talk about what compositions they're playing, the combinations of supports, tanks, DPS, but mostly going over why and how they're running it. Not necessarily for you to play yourself in whatever ladder games, but just so you're aware of how it's being played, that you can understand how it's strong and how it's being used. This video is sponsored by Blizzard, and the Overwatch League has just gone live. You can find it linked below. Previously, we've highlighted the real big strength between Orisa, Roadhog and Mei, which we are dubbing the ice fishing meta. Orisa halts a target by pulling it into the air, Roadhog can hook it, and it usually confirms a kill at that point, unless you hook an Orisa that uses Fortify, or a Roadhog that uses his heal. If you pick like a Zenyatta up out of that, you're gonna kill him. And it's fairly difficult to counter because Halt is such a strong ability. Well, teams are getting very wise to that, and have started by using Mei. Mei is really good at being able to block off that combination. If a target gets hooked and you place a wall in the right place as Mei, you break that hook, meaning that you save your teammate. So you can use it to save your team as well as kill confirm by maybe putting a wall behind the enemy, making sure they can't escape, using it in clever subtle ways that allows you to get the advantage in fights. That was the meta in the first couple of weeks of the Overwatch League at least. It has evolved in various different ways, and we're now going into another GOATS comp, but this time mini GOATS. The combination is as followed. You still have the Orisa in your lineup as being the main tank. You can still have a Roadhog, but D.Va is being switched in quite a lot. We can talk about that a little bit more. 2 DPS with 250 HP and a lot of sustain. These heroes would include Mei, like we've sort of gone over in the past, Reaper, as well as Doomfist. Not only do these heroes have 250 HP, meaning that they have 50 HP on average more than the other DPS, Reaper and Doomfist can generate health on the go. Reaper does it by shooting targets, getting a bit of that lifesteal back. Doomfist gains shield from damaging heroes with his abilities. So both of these on their own can keep themselves up quite a lot, but when their team is focused on supporting them, they're very difficult to kill, much like Mei. And for the most part, at least for support, you would have Moira and Lucio healing. One of the things that was brought up in the comments before about Mei is, why is this happening? You know, Mei has always had 250 health. She's always had the wall. She's always had the element of combination with Halt and Hook. Why is it being used now? What has changed? And that has a lot to do with Rollock. It's pretty obvious when you think about it, really, that teams would have to choose DPS at this point. But you really need to break it down into more basic pieces. Snipers are really strong in this game, with the ability to just one-shot people from a distance without being able to contest them in a lot of fashions. Widowmaker and Hanzo are incredibly strong against squishies, so teams decided to not run squishies anymore by stacking tanks. We've had triple tank in the past, we've had quad tank, and of course more recently we've had GOATS. GOATS was ran to counter snipers, to make sure that they couldn't get any effective use. The high sustain meant it was very difficult to actually kill a team that was stacking tanks with a lot of heals. One of the reasons why Rollock came in was to counter that, because tank stacking was strong even before GOATS comp was even a thing. So now that teams can't run more than 2 tanks in a lineup, and they have to use 2 DPS, they're picking tanky, high sustain DPS heroes and playing them like tanks. There is very little difference between the composition that you're seeing on screen versus GOATS comp in how it's played. You just have a few more abilities to work with, a few different ultimates, no Brigitte as an example. You get the point. And whilst the main tank has changed, the lineup is fairly similar. Lucio's really good at being able to speed slow moving heroes into a fight and brawl in on a point, and Moira's healing output is the best out of all the heroes. As well, she loves a scrap. She can survive on her own with Fade, she can get Coalescence quite a lot, she could just do a lot of healing that covers up for the fact that you can only run 2 supports instead of 3 in most cases. That's the mini GOATS comp, but unlike big boy GOATS comp, that isn't being ran all of the time. To show this, I wanted to go over the top 10 heroes in pick rate from last week, and you can find this on omnicmeta.com, and talk about where they're being used and why. Some of these we've just gone over. For example, Orisa is the most popular hero in the game currently in the pro scene, with a pick rate of almost 90%. When it comes to main tanks, she can output the most damage, she has the most shield and can put it out quite regularly, and Fortify is a really good ability for when you may get hooked. You can of course cancel the hook effect if you get pulled up into the air, you could escape a blizzard from a Mei, you could escape a lot of CC, or just when the enemy's on top of you, you can reduce your damage. Means that she could do a lot more in those cases as opposed to Reinhardt, who has to just sort of grim and bear it, as well as the dive tanks Winston and Wrecking Ball. Now on the subject of Wrecking Ball, I did want to add that he is been used quite a bit. He has a 10% pick rate and is being used in dive compositions, mostly picked over Winston, and was used on some maps by some teams, areas like Control, Ilios and Busan, as well as high vertical maps like Temple of Anubis whilst you're attacking. So dive is still being used, it's not just Orisa all of the time, but it's 90% versus 10%. If you're going to pick a main tank right now, Orisa is really good, but if you're a Wrecking Ball player, you can still run him, of course. Off tanks, now this is where changes started to come in quite dramatically. We highlighted before that Roadhog is really important to that ice fishing meta of halting a target, hooking them, bringing them in and killing them. His place in this ice meta is starting to shift in favour of D.Va, who has an even better pick rate than Roadhog in the pro scene currently, about 10% higher on average. So why is D.Va being played more than Roadhog, when Roadhog is one of the pivotal parts of this composition? Because Mei's being used to block this halt hook combination by using her walls, it's a lot harder now to get effective use out of the halt hook combo, making it so Roadhog in this lineup just isn't as good. Roadhog Orisa is the all-out offensive option. You want to get those halt hook combinations, however it's much more difficult to do that now when you have a Mei playing defensively, walling off all of your connected hooks. So because of that, teams are starting to run D.Va a lot more in a more defensive lineup. D.Va can eat the halt as it comes in, she can eat the hook damage if it gets one of your teammates, she can eat a lot of damage coming in to try and break shields, from snipers, from Zenyatta, from Ana, eating some of those heals that may be coming in, but also she can eat Mei's Blizzard with relative ease due to the wind-up time that Mei has using her ultimate. Because you can do that, you can just shut down a lot of what Mei can do. Of course you can't defense matrix her primary fire, so you don't want to get too close, otherwise you'll get frozen, but that's the main reason why D.Va's been played a lot more over Roadhog. It's kind of like competitive, like I've been saying in the past. If you're playing Roadhog and you're just not getting kills, your hooks aren't landing, and even when they do, the enemy team is protecting the targets by Mei walling you off or whatever, if you're just not getting any effective use out of Roadhog, switch to D.Va instead and play a little bit more defensively. Not to mention that D.Va can contest high ground. On maps like Hanamura, she can jump to either side. It's where she's been used in the gameplay in the background. So it's all about making sure that Roadhog Orisa can't have the same amount of impact. So teams are dropping the Roadhog in place of D.Va to just deny them that opportunity. Roadhog is a very feast or famine hero. If the enemy team's running it and you're a D.Va, you're going to starve him out, basically. That's how it's working. Supports, it's really interesting. Out of the top 12 heroes, 50% are supports. 6 supports are being played regularly in the Overwatch League currently, and I kind of quickly want to go over why. The supports for the most part go into 3 combinations. Lucio Moira, as we've highlighted in that mini goats comp. We also have Mercy Ana, which is quite popular, as well as Baptiste Zenyatta. Lucio Moira we've gone over already, really good for those closed in areas like control points, Control Center as an example, Oasis University. You know, those closed in maps where Reinhardt and Zarya were very popular is where Moira and Lucio are finding the most playtime, especially on control maps. But maps like Assault, Hybrid and Escort are a little bit more open, and that's where we see the rest of our combos. Ana's best pick rate is on the Assault maps because she wants to heal from a distance, and she combos really well with Mercy, who of course can res targets as they die, and these maps tend to have a lot of high ground and mobility that you can make use of. This is where the likes of Mercy really shine, because like we're seeing on the gameplay from Hollywood Point B, this is a perfect part of the map to be playing her. She can jump up to the Hanzo that's on the high ground, just dine and dash between players to keep herself alive. But in this gameplay, once the Mercy goes inside onto the third point of Hollywood, she doesn't really have anywhere to fly to or anywhere to go, so she really suffers because of that. Ana is of course really strong, long range healing, nano boost on certain targets, anti-heal, but keeping a distance like the San Francisco Shock gameplay that we're going over now. So on control maps where it's brawly, you want to be running Moira Lucio for the most part. Assault where it's a bit more slow and picks really do matter, Ana Mercy is one of the better options, but Hybrid and Escort is where it changes again, and this is where Baptiste really starts to shine. We've spoken about this previously in another video really highlighting Baptiste's strengths, but just to quickly go over it again. Strong long range healing, not as far as Ana mind you, but is very dynamic in the fact that he can heal people very close to him, right in front of him, as well as from a good amount of distance. He can damage the enemy's shield somewhat, his ult is great for increasing damage and you can place it basically anywhere, and his invincibility field is really good for saving halt hook combinations, frozen targets from Blizzard, and a lot more. One other area that I feel that he is often overlooked at is his passive being able to space jump onto higher platforms to keep his distance. On maps where the payload and the objective is constantly moving, having Baptiste's ability to do this is really strong. Comparing that to Ana on assault maps, she's typically going to stand in one place or the other. She's not going to be moving around a lot, and that's where she's the strongest. However, in maps where you're constantly having to move, constantly having to change, but you're not really brawling all the time like a Lucio or Moira are, Baptiste is the great in-between for that. He's been lined up alongside another support, Zenyatta. This is a very aggressive lineup. Zenyatta is really good because the Discord Orb is still incredibly strong. It's really good at making sure that tanky targets go down and can do a lot of damage to shields and enemies. Also, Transcendence is still one of the best, if not the best ultimate in the game currently, and can survive Mei's Blizzard and other high impact ultimates and abilities. So just to recap, Moira Lucio for the mini goats comp in brawly maps, Ana Mercy where the gameplay is a lot slower, picks are important, resin targets is more important, but typically you're not moving too much on defense, Zenyatta Baptiste for everything in between. For the DPS, we've highlighted the impact that Mei and Reaper especially are having at the moment. Doomfist we mentioned, but really he's not as popular. He has a pick rate of about 7% in comparison to Reaper that has a pick rate of 44%. There is a big gap between them, but there is one DPS hero that is on this list that we haven't spoken about yet, Hanzo. Hanzo is a sniper, so he does get denied a little bit by these high sustained tanky compositions that teams are running, but he still has a lot of shield break and can still output a lot of damage with his Storm Arrow. Not to mention having the Sonar Arrow to be able to know where targets are is a strong thing. He's kind of like Baptiste in the sense that he is very dynamic and can play close range, long range, more so than the likes of Widowmaker, whose pick rate isn't really that good to be honest. On control maps, Hanzo is barely played, but it's on Hybrid and Escort where he's starting to find his stride. Those maps with, like I said, Baptiste and Zenyatta. Those areas where running Reaper just isn't as good because you want to have an element of distance as you're pushing the payload or protecting it, whatever. You've seen in the gameplay in the background a fine example of Hanzo just constantly moving, constantly shifting around. He's the best long range DPS in the game currently, so if you can't really play Mei or Reaper, Hanzo is still a better option. The meta is still shifting, by the way, like none of this is concrete, it's in flux, teams are still working out what's best, so if you yourself want to keep on top of what's going on currently and how it's changing as it happens, you can watch it right now. The Overwatch League has just started as this video has gone live, so you can see for yourself what's happening and how it's changing. But at the time of recording this video, these are the top 10 heroes. Orisa the best main tank, Mei is up there, D.Va becoming more popular than Roadhog currently, Lucio is the best support at the moment as Minigoats is becoming more popular, Reaper to complete that combo, Roadhog still being played but less popular than D.Va, Ana Baptiste and Moira can mix and match these whenever really, so long as you understand where they're strong, and then Hanzo to finish the top 10. If you're not playing close range Reaper Mei, Hanzo is the best option currently, still very good. In competitive, it's a lot more open. You don't have to play anything I'm showing you on screen, but I think it's important to know exactly how it's been run and why it's been played, and especially now that we're getting into a meta sense of one combination is really strong in control, one is really good on the likes of Hybrid and Escort. If you're playing support as an example like myself, you now understand where to play what, as a template at least. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Big shout out again to Blizzard for helping support this video. Like I said, not necessarily applicable into competitive, but I hope I explained to you the strength of this new meta, the ice fishing one, but mostly how mini goats is definitely becoming a thing. Thanks for watching, take care, we'll see you soon.